In The Murder and the Money Trail, the Fifth Estate explores how a Mexican employee of Scotiabank became embroiled in a money laundering scheme that led to her murder. Money laundering is rampant in Mexico, and the country is considered a world leader in exporting illicit cash to cleanse the proceeds of crime. But as you'll see, money laundering has a long and rich history, as former U.S. Senate investigator Jack Blum explains.
Money laundering goes back a long, long way. In the United States, the pioneer in money laundering was Meyer Lansky. And Meyer Lansky got into the business because the Chicago mobster Al Capone was set up on an income tax rap. He had too much money and he couldn't explain where he got it or that it was legitimate and tax paid. So the boys figured out they now had to have some way to show money as a legitimate profit. Well, this is even before World War II. Lansky cut a deal with the then Cuban government and took control of the racetracks in Cuba. At the time, Cuba used the US dollar as its currency. The racetracks opened a bank account in Florida, and all of the money from all of the corruption, the prostitution, numbers, you name it, wound up being deposited, and it was in the name of the racetracks that Lansky owned in Cuba. That sort of matured into ownership of gambling casinos. And before Nevada really sort of regulated the casino business, it was truly the Wild West, because who was to say how much the house took in on a given night and what the profit was? And then when people got their payout in the form of cashing in chips, who knew what was going on there? And all they could say was, well, you know, we paid out winnings, and a guy would say, well, I got the cash because I won it at the tables. So that was really the beginning of large-scale money laundering. But over the years, it's gotten more and more sophisticated and much better, in terms of how to hide it from the cops.
International markets such as Mexico are very attractive for financial institutions, but as Blum explains, doing business in countries that are often rife with crime and corruption is risky.
The problem of illicit money is a huge, huge problem for the banks. There's reputational risk, there's legal risk, there's risk in the home country, there's risk in the country where they're operating, and this is a very difficult and problematic area to do business in. So, if you're opening a branch, let's say in the Democratic Republic of Congo, you're guaranteed that this is going to have to be something you will spend a lot of money watching and checking and looking out for, because that's a troubled place.
Is it inevitable, then, that banks will inadvertently or not become involved in money laundering schemes when working in these troubled places? Blum doesn't think so.
If you could do honest business, there's honest business to be done. There are large, legitimate commercial customers in Mexico. There are many individuals who are very wealthy who need banking services in Mexico. If you want to be a retail banker, God, there are millions of Mexicans who need good retail banking services. So there is a way of operating honestly. The problem is a different one. It's a problem of where is the profit. If you're operating a normal bank, and by that I mean doing all the things that you and I would do if we open an account, down the street, which is have a checking account, have a debit card, have a credit card, maybe have a loan of some sort, the margin for the bank, the profit margin for the bank is very small. Every bank offers the same stuff. Every bank has the same software. Every bank is confronted, well, do I give him a toaster or do I promise him something when he opens the account? How do I get him in the door? What do I have to give away? So the premium customer is the customer who's the criminal. And that customer is going to pay anything you ask for the banking service.
But what are the banks doing to curb money laundering?
They've changed, the procedures have changed rather dramatically. There are know your customer requirements, there are screening requirements, there are requirements to look at carefully wires, let's say, that are going to peculiar destinations. So to give you an example, as an attorney, I have accounts that for clients I have to move money in escrow, and I can wire money inside the United States and, from my home computer with a flick of a wrist, so to speak. On the other hand, if I wanted to send a wire for a significant amount of money to Belize or to Cyprus or to some destination like that, my computer screen would say, this wire needs approval from the security department. You will be called within the next hour, and they'll want an explanation. Who is the money going to? Why is it going there? What is this all about? That is the kind of screening that is supposed to go on. Does everybody do it? Well, to a greater or lesser degree, there's some nod to that kind of compliance, but again, it depends on the institution, it depends on the effectiveness of the people who are in their compliance office.
And if banks cannot clean up money laundering in their midst, Blum has one remarkably simple solution.
One of them would be to change the U.S. dollar. That is to say, go from greenbacks to blue, and insist that everybody bring the old greenbacks into a bank and turn it over for the new currency. Now, if you did that, you would render any collection of $100 bills outside the U.S. worthless, unless somebody decided to come in. You know perfectly well that the drug guys, the terrorists, all these other people who are in fact using U.S. dollars as a store of value would be really in big trouble.